The calendar is officially flipped to February. Who sits atop of the Big 12 men's basketball power rankings as we are under 6 weeks away from Selection Sunday? In today's video, I'll give my Big 12 men's basketball power rankings for the week of February 5th, including just how far did Texas Tech fall after their 0-2 week, and a new #1 team has emerged. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And before we get into today's video, have to give a huge shout out to today's video sponsor, Home Field Apparel. You can save 15% off your new favorite shirt, jacket, hoodie, whatever it is for your favorite school in the Big 12 by simply using the promo code Back to 12. I literally have my favorite jacket from Home Field and my favorite Texas Tech shirt. Okay, you can do the same for your favorite school. All you got to do is use the code Back to 12 to save 15% off your new favorite shirt for your school, whether that's Kansas, Kansas State, Houston, whoever it may be. Home Field's got you covered. Just use the code Back to 12 to save 15%. All right, let's jump right into the rankings. We're going to start, as always, from 14 and move down to 1. We're going to start with Oklahoma State. They did have a win last week in a very, very sparse crowd there in Stillwater, but they did beat the Wildcats of Kansas State. I still have them at the 14 spot as they still have the fewest amount of wins in the Big 12 Conference this year. Then is West Virginia. They did beat Cincy at home, but then they fell in their other matchup, so they stay at 13. Now, the surprise here may be the Kansas State Wildcats. I had them at 9 last week. They fall to 12. You lose to Oklahoma at home by a lot. I mean, you get drubbed. And then you lose at Oklahoma State. Not a great look for Jerome Tang's bunch. And that doesn't mean that I think they're out of it. They've got some talent on that squad, but there's no way I can reasonably put them ahead of these couple of teams ahead of them, specifically Oklahoma, who beat them. So that's how it goes. 12 Kansas State, 11 Oklahoma, two teams I think that can go up the rankings a little bit. But for this week, I have them at 11 and 12. At the 10 spot, it's UCF. I mean, talk about a week. Yes, they did lose at Baylor, but they also beat number 23 Oklahoma. Okay, so you think about what the Knights are doing. They've been phenomenal. I didn't see this coming in terms of their first year in the Big 12. Remember, this was the team to pick that was picked last in the preseason. Shout out to them. The Knights have been phenomenal. I have them at 10, moving up 2 spots this week from 12 to 10. Now we move forward. We've got 5 through 9, and this is where things probably get a little iffy in the comments section, but damn it, this is how I feel after watching the games this week. You got Cincinnati. They were 1-1 last week. They lost at West Virginia, and then they beat Texas Tech, a very, very good win. For those that know anything about the Big 12, Lubbock, Texas is one of the hardest places to win in the Big 12. It's hard to win anywhere, but Lubbock is in that, top 3, 4 at worst when it comes to hardest places to win in the Big 12. Now you've got, the Texas Longhorns, who had a pretty good week. They almost beat Houston on Big Monday. They lost by 4 to the number 4 ranked Cougars, and then they beat TCU. They went down by double digits early on, and then they ended up really boat racing TCU when it came down to it. So they move up a spot from 7 to 8. Now the Cougars, they only played one game this week, and because of the teams behind them, they do move down one spot, to sit from 6 to 7, but they beat West Virginia. They had one game this week, and they handled business out in Morgantown. So good for the Cougars. Now, I teased it a little bit early on in the video in terms of how far did Texas Tech fall. I had Texas Tech in my rankings last week as the number 2 team, but there's no way I can sensibly put them in the top 5 this week after you lose 2 games. One at TCU where you had a chance to win. You just played arguably your worst game in the Big 12 this year. And then Cincinnati, albeit Texas Tech and the team is going through a flu bug, it sounds like right now. But a loss is a loss. You got to drop down. The reason that they didn't go any further is this. I think they have better wins than Cincinnati in the Big 12. They already beat Texas, and they beat BYU. That's really what it comes down to in terms of the teams that are behind them that people probably wanted to have the Texas Tech Red Raiders, I guess, fall back even more. But that's where I'm at. Then I have TCU at number 5. They fall back one spot in this one because, the top 4 are pretty clear in my opinion. But they had a 1-1 week last week. I already mentioned that they beat Texas Tech, and then they lost to Texas on Saturday. Now, before we get into the top 4 and really go down into the nitty-gritty of this, I got to remind you to smash that subscribe button and smash that notification bell to stay in the know on my Big 12 men's basketball power rankings each and every week. It'll come out on Monday. We put 2 videos here out on the channel every Monday. It's a preview video for Texas Tech men's basketball in their game for that week, and also this video. So if you want to join one of the most engaging Texas Tech communities and one of the most engaging Big 12 communities here on YouTube, like the video, smash that subscribe button, and maybe most importantly, turn on that notification bell to stay in the know each and every week on my Big 12 men's basketball power rankings. All right, the top 4. And I think this is pretty clear, by the way. You could put them in some certain order, but I think this is pretty clear, and I think at least everybody should probably agree with it. Now, that's obviously biased because it's my rankings, but whatever. I got the Baylor Bears moving up 4 spots from 8 to 4. They go 2-0 last week. They win at Central Florida. No easy task. Just ask the Jayhawks, right? And then they also beat number 12 Iowa State. Now, that one came down to the wire, legitimately the buzzer. And if the guy got the ball out of his hands in time for the Cyclones, he didn't. Baylor won. That's an impressive game. All I ask again, Baylor, please fix the camera angle. I'm giving you, you're just doing the rankings. Just do me a favor and fix that camera angle, please. Then I've got the TJOs of the world at number 3. Yes, I understand. I really do that they lost to Baylor. I just look at their resume and they have a better resume in the Big 12. I'm sorry. That's just really what it comes down to is at the buzzer. They lost to Baylor by 2 in their only matchup last week. I get it. Baylor goes 2-0 and they have an impressive win on the road at UCF. But go look at what Iowa State has done in the Big 12. They are clearly in the top 3, in my opinion. The only thing I think you can argue in the sense of, yes, Baylor beat them, but entire resume. We're just not looking at last week. I think Iowa State has a better resume as it stands right now in the Big 12 than Baylor. That's why I have them at 3, and I'm sure people will not agree with me on that. Anyway, we've got Houston at 2. They moved down from 1 to 2 because, well, they lost to the team at number 1 by a large margin. I mean, Kansas just absolutely drummed them in Allen Fieldhouse. It was arguably really the most efficient game of the year for Kansas, but regardless. So you look at what Houston did last week. They win at Texas. That's a really good win. Texas is really starting to improve in the Big 12. Then you lose at number 8 Kansas. The hardest place to win in college basketball is Allen Fieldhouse with Bill Self coaching. It's that simple. So I didn't punish Houston too much, but I did move Kansas from 4 to 1. They go 2-0 last week. They absolutely dominate Oklahoma State as they should, and then they beat number 4 Houston at home. Maybe you can, switch the pieces around in terms of the top 4, wherever you want those teams to go. I could hear your argument, but those are the clear top 4 teams in the Big 12 going into the week of February 5th, in my opinion. And it's Kansas, Houston, Iowa State, Baylor. You can put them in different orders. I get that, but I don't see how you can put another team ahead of them in terms of what we've seen lately from these specific teams. Because again, I could argue Texas Tech should be up there in the sense of their resume, but the issue is they went 0-2 last week. They should have beat Cincinnati. They didn't. They could have played better at TCU. They didn't. They're 0-2. They've got to drop. So that's where it is, and you can't have Texas Tech in terms of what the resume is. And looking at TCU's resume, they have a better resume than Texas Tech right now in terms of some of the wins. And, again, that's how I feel about the top 4 teams right now. It is abundantly clear these are the top 4 going into this week. But if you know anything about the Big 12, the top 4 could be a jumbled mess by next week. I mean, perfect example is Texas Tech. All you got to go is 0-2 in league play in 1 week, and you can definitely change your fortune, at least in my rankings. All right, that's going to do it. One more time. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to stay in the know on all things Big 12 men's basketball. We are focused mainly on Texas Tech, but we'll have my weekly power rankings up here on the channel each and every Monday. So if you want to watch that video, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to join one of the most engaging Big 12 communities here on YouTube and the Back to 12 podcast channel.